February 9, 4 days after Countess Scathach Scarlet attacked the headquarters of the Inquisition organization. Current location, underground of the house where Victor lives. My head was hurting so bad. I put my hand on my head as I opened my eyes. I am at home? I spoke out loud, confused, and sit up in bed. I place a hand on my head again as soon as I start to remember what happened. I fought that blonde man, then I went to save Ruby, and I was paralyzed by that woman's poison. I see. And to think that a vampire would be affected by something like poison. That woman must have used something special. Zzz. Hearing someone's breathing in their sleep, I look to my right side and see a sight that surprised me a lot. A woman with long red hair, big breasts, and a curvaceous body was sleeping the same way she came into the world. Ruby? I stuttered a little. I was taken aback by this fantastic sight. Hearing my voice, she seems to have woken up from her sleep. She opens her eyes sleepily, looks at me with her green eyes, and says with a gentle smile, "Darling?" Hearing her voice, my heart began to pound frantically, my throat went dry, and I felt an uncontrollable urge to bite her neck. I bite my lip and try to control myself. It seems my bloodlust was stronger than before. How long did I sleep? She flashes a seductive smile, stands up a little, and then starts to crawl towards me. When she started to crawl like that, I could see her 2 white rabbits that looked soft and fluffy, even though they looked fierce. It was such a beautiful sight that it made you want to squeeze and pet those white rabbits. I look into Ruby's eyes, and seeing her seductive expression, I couldn't help but be captivated by the sight. She was so beautiful. She looked like a succubus that was trying to seduce me. Slowly she climbs onto my lap, sits on my crotch, and wraps her arms gently around my chest and lays her head on my chest. When she did that, I could feel her 2 melons on my chest. She had the biggest ones I've seen so far. I could feel her steady breathing on my chest. As soon as she pulls back a little and looks at me, I could see her eyes were blood red. I bring my hand up to her face. She is surprised for a moment, but she accepts my advances, puts her face in my hand, and I soon start stroking her face. She looks at me with desire shining in her eyes. "Darling, darling, darling," she spoke as her breath started to come in short pants. She seemed to be wanting too much. Understanding what she's up to, I hold back my bloodlust and show my neck. The moment I showed my neck, she opens her mouth and bites me. I feel my blood being sucked by her. Unable to take it anymore, I wrap my arms around her waist, and soon I open my mouth, then bite her collarbone. Ah! She moaned as she stopped sucking my blood. As soon as she wrapped her legs around my waist, I also felt something wetting the shorts I was wearing. Her blood was so delicious. The taste was something like high-quality ice cream. The icy feeling that her blood gave me, it was an addictive feeling. "Darling, darling, darling," she kept repeating the word like a broken record as she hugged me tighter. Then she bit me again. Suddenly, my world starts to change, and I was in that abandoned building again. It all happened the same way I saw it in Sasha and Violet's visions, but now I could see the sequel. I could see what happened the moment I bit Sasha. Violet created several fireballs around her. "Die, bitches!" When I stop biting Sasha and look at Violet, I notice that I seem to be in a trance-like state. I don't seem to have control of my actions, so I speak in a neutral tone. "All blood belongs to me." Suddenly, a dome of blood appeared in front of me and surrounded me and Sasha. Boom! An explosion happens when Violet's fireballs come in contact with my blood. "Darling? Oh my God, what have I done?" Violet started to despair, but when the smoke from the attack disappeared, she sighed in relief. I could see she was surprised too. Apparently, I managed to protect Sasha and myself with that blood dome. As soon as the blood dome disappears, I slowly start to close my eyes and gently fall towards the ground. I seem to have passed out. "Darling?" Violet squealed in concern. She approached me with supernatural speed and held me gently. "I'm sorry, darling. She looked like she was about to cry. "Calm down, Violet," Ruby said as she held her neck with a neutral expression, but I could see her face was a little troubled. It was like she didn't believe what just happened. "Calm down, Violet. I almost killed my darling because of you bitches," Violet exploded again. "Don't be unfair, Violet," Sasha said as she held her neck with a worried expression. "Remember that you were the one who called us for help." "Indeed," Ruby added. Then she speaks in a cold voice. "Calm down and tell us what happened. Why are we marked as his wife?" Violet's face takes on a guilty expression when she hears what Sasha says, but when she hears what Ruby says, she gets angry again. She takes a deep breath and seems to try to hold back her anger, so she sits down on the floor and puts my head in her lap. "I think Darling's blood altered the ritual," Violet begins to explain. "Darling, you have a rare blood type, Rh null blood," she said while stroking my hair. It seems by doing that she managed to calm down more. "The golden blood?" Ruby exclaimed in shock, but soon her expression changed to a stoic one. "How is he still alive? This blood is considered a delicacy for vampires. Victor should look like a slice of very tasty meat with this blood type. But why don't I feel anything coming from him?" She spoke while putting her hand to her lips. "This blood type paints a gigantic target on the owner. People with this blood type rarely go beyond 15 years of age. After all, a vampire can smell this scent from kilometers away." After Sasha's initial shock because of Victor, she added, "Violet has stopped stroking my hair and looks at the two women with lifeless eyes. I protected him for 16 whole years of my life. I protected him until the day he would become mine. My beloved darling." She spoke with loving eyes as she caressed me, but soon her expression distorts into hate. "But just me taking my attention away from him for a few seconds." Slowly her voice began to get heavier, and soon killing intent so great that it made the air heavier began to leave her body. "It was just a few seconds, and that was enough for a mangy dog to try to mark him. How dare they? My darling! Do they dare to try to steal my darling? Unforgivable!" Boom! Fire started to shoot out of Violet's body in an uncontrolled way. The ground around Violet started to melt, but this fire didn't seem to be hurting me. Soon, Violet's gaze turns to Ruby and Sasha. "Do you guys want to steal my darling from me too?" "Sasha, now!" Ruby yelled. Sasha's body starts to crackle with her lightning. Soon she disappears in a yellow trail and picks up Ruby like a sack of potatoes and runs away from Violet. Boom! An explosion of fire happened. Violet tried to attack Sasha and Ruby again, but the two women had already fled. Suddenly my vision changed. I was in a place far from the building where I was transformed. I look around and realize I was in a park. "She's crazier than usual," Sasha commented in a neutral tone as she stared at a building that was on fire. Looking at the burning building, I think, I wonder how my beloved wife managed to hide this incident from everyone. Ruby sighs. She's pissed at the whole situation. "We should stay away for a few days. Violet should calm down now that she's with Victor," Sasha spoke. "I'm worried about something," Ruby commented. Then she added as she looked at Sasha, "Do you think Victor will accept Violet? You know her personality." The two women fall into an uncomfortable silence. If Victor doesn't accept Violet, I think this time she's really going to freak out, Sasha spoke with a worried face. Yes, Ruby sighed. Anyway, I'm going back home. Luna must be worried, Ruby said. Sasha nods and says, "See you later, Ruby." Suddenly, the world shatters like a crack in a glass. ... I open my eyes and I realize as I come out of that memory, I feel a weight on my right arm. I look to my right side and see Ruby, who was lying down while leaning on my arm. I seem to have fallen asleep for a few minutes again. Feeling my gaze, she opens her eyes and looks at me with a seductive smile. "Welcome back, darling." I look at Ruby and I feel like I've known her for several years. Just like Violet and Sasha, I could understand her completely. I knew what kind of person Ruby was. A gentle woman on the inside, but one who always has a cold mask on the outside. And at the same time, she was very aggressive when she wanted something, though she is easily embarrassed when confronted directly with pure feelings. A simple woman who had to live hiding her feelings. Sometimes she just wanted to let go, but she couldn't. When I go to try to say something, Ruby gets up on the bed, approaches me, then she kisses me. Our tongues play with each other for a few minutes, then she stops kissing me and licks her lips sensually. "You're way more aggressive than Sasha," I commented with a small smile. She smiles gently. "Wrong, darling. I'm not an aggressive woman." I look at her curiously. "I am a decisive woman." She places her hand on my chest and caresses the spot where I was injured by Mizuki, but thanks to vampire regeneration, the spot that Mizuki cut me in is unscarred. "You saved me, and in doing so, you awakened my desire to have you for myself." She smiles at a flirtish smile. "And I always run after what I want." "Oh, and what do you want?" I asked with a smile. She brings her face closer to mine and speaks with a possessive face. For a moment, I saw her eyes darken. "I want you for myself. I want you to be my darling." I felt my entire body shudder in pleasure when I saw Ruby's expression. "You," I said, smiling, as I kissed her lightly. Then I get up from the bed and pick up Ruby like a princess. The moment I got out of bed, I felt an incongruity. Things around me seemed to be lower than I was used to. Did I grow taller? I see Ruby pouting, and this sight made my heart melt. She was so cute. I put her on the bed and kneel down. "I need to see Violet," I said while stroking her red hair. After what I saw in Ruby's memories, I have a huge desire to meet my wife. I see Ruby's face turn a little red. She nodded cutely. She was so cute. Just like Sasha and Violet, Ruby had a charm of her own that I loved a lot. Sasha was a strong woman who was very weak with showing affection. She was easily embarrassed, although she has a possessive side that I love very much. Violet, my beautiful ice flower, was a woman direct with her feelings. She was possessive and always tried to harm anyone who approached me, and she always put my safety first while forgetting her own safety. She was a person I love. Stopping to think now, my 3 wives are beautiful vampires. I really am a very lucky man. I spoke in a low tone, but I realized that Ruby heard me, and her face turned a little red with embarrassment. I laugh a little as I do my best to ignore Ruby's 2 white rabbits. I walk to the wardrobe, but soon I remember my favorite maid. Kaguya, a Japanese woman-looking maid, stepped out of my shadow. "Lord Victor, I'm glad you woke up," Kaguya spoke in a neutral, emotionless tone, but I was sure I could see her eyes shining for a moment. I look at Kaguya smiling. I open my arms and say, "Do your magic." Her black eyes change to blood red, and she flashes a small smile. "As expected, Lord Victor is the best master." Her body is covered in darkness, and soon she passes through my body, and a few seconds later I've already changed my clothes. "Thank you, Kaguya." I said as I stroked her head. I felt her body tremble, and a small, satisfied smile appeared on her face. I also noticed that she looked shorter than usual. I think I really grew up. "Shall we go, darling?" I hear Ruby's voice. I look at Ruby and I see she's wearing a simple blue skirt, big black tights, and a red shirt that could barely hide her breasts. Seeing that I had been staring at her breasts longer than I intended, she smiled seductively. "What are you doing, darling?" My face turns a little red, but soon I understand something. She's playing this game, huh? I swallow my shame and say, "I was admiring how beautiful my wife is. I really am lucky." Suddenly, Ruby's face turned red with embarrassment. She turns her head away and hides her face with her hair. "Come on, honey." Ruby nodded. I walk to the door, and when I touch the door, I see several green magic symbols appearing. For a moment I was confused, but I just shrugged like I didn't care. When I walk through the door, I hear, "Now with the latest news. In the Vatican, there was a serious explosion caused by terrorist attacks. The terrorists placed several new bombs created with liquid nitrogen throughout the Vatican. As you can see from the images, the damage caused was immense. More than 70% of the Vatican structures are destroyed." "Ha ha ha ha! Liquid nitrogen bomb? Can't they come up with a better excuse?" I hear a woman speaking that I don't know. I walk a little and see that the woman was sitting on the couch while watching the news. She turns the television off with the remote and turns her head towards me. When our eyes meet, my body froze. I feel like I'm in Alaska. My whole body was cold, and I felt like I was looking at a wild beast that could kill me at any moment. I couldn't move. She displays a wild smile that at the same time was seductive. "Heh, you finally woke up, my son-in-law." You finally woke up, my son-in-law. Did you enjoy sinking your fangs into my daughter's neck? Suddenly, I feel my whole body go numb. Fear, that's what I felt. For the first time in my life, I felt the purest feeling of fear. My heart was beating wildly. My instinct screamed to run, but I couldn't. My body was paralyzed. I could feel my whole body in a cold sweat as I looked at the woman in front of me. I thought, a monster, a real monster was sitting in front of me. I swallowed hard. I could feel, yes, I could feel with all my being that this monster could kill me at any moment. In front of her, I was just an insect. In front of this woman, I was just a newborn that she could easily step on. I clenched my fists tightly. Fear? Yes, I was scared, but I refused to be paralyzed. I bit my tongue hard and tasted the blood, but I didn't care. The pain made me regain control of my body. I felt an irritating feeling in my heart, a feeling that told me not to bow my head to anyone. My pride won't let me. But besides this irritating feeling I had in my heart, I had another feeling screaming furiously. I look into the red eyes of the woman who was smiling at me, and I display a smile so big that my face distorts unnaturally. Oh, her smile grew like my smile. A strong warrior was in front of me, an opponent to fight. I'm excited. My whole body is screaming in euphoria to fight her. I could feel it. But I knew an unchanging truth. I was too weak to have a fight that will satisfy my desire, and that irritated me. That frustrated me. "Mother, when did you arrive?" The woman ignored her daughter's question and kept looking at me. "This is really a shame." "Why is this a shame?" she asked in curiosity. "I'm too weak to fight you. That's really a shame," I sighed at the end. I could feel the whole atmosphere in the room freeze unnaturally, and everyone in the room was looking at me with a stunned face. The woman's instinct to kill disappeared, and soon she started to laugh. I didn't understand why she was laughing. I looked to Ruby for answers, and saw that she had a shocked face as she looked at her mom. She didn't seem to understand why her mom was laughing. Suddenly, the woman stopped laughing and got up from the couch. Then she looked at me again. Interesting, interesting. She displayed a distorted smile. I like you. Huh? Thanks. I didn't understand why she said that. I looked at the woman in front of me more closely. She looked like a more mature version of Ruby. She has pale skin, blood-red eyes, long red hair that reaches her waist, and a curvy body that her clothes couldn't hide. She had the enormous breasts I've ever seen. I think she had bigger breasts than Ruby. I think it was H-cup. She was shorter than me by a few inches. I don't know how tall I am now, but I seem to be bigger than before. She was beautiful. Beautiful would be a little enough compliment to describe all her beauty. A hot beauty, a crazy beauty, a woman who would make any man go crazy with just a simple gesture. But she wasn't just that. She was a warrior, a bloodthirsty warrior, a warrior who had some screws loose in her head just like me. That's the impression I had of her. She approaches me and starts looking me up and down. Oh, it looks like your evolution gave you more potential than I expected. Interesting. For a moment, I saw her eyes glow red. Ugh, I hear Violet's voice. This bitch. One day I'm going to kill her. I withdraw my attention from the woman, look to the couch, and see my beloved wife with an irritated face. Ugh, her face distorted a little, but I didn't care. I stop in front of the couch and see Violet, who was wearing only a black nightgown. She was mumbling in a distorted tone about how she was going to kill that woman who was Ruby's mother. I sit on the couch and pull Violet onto my lap. "Kia!" she squealed in surprise. "Darling!" She looked at me confused, but soon her face filled with genuine joy and hugged me possessively. "Darling, darling, darling!" "I missed you," I said honestly as I hugged her. I felt Violet's body shake, and she looks at me with a tearful face. I was worried that you wouldn't wake up anymore." I wiped the tears from Violet's eye, and I hug her tighter and lay her head on my chest. "Shh, I'm here, okay?" While Violet and Victor are in their own world, Sasha approaches Ruby and speaks in a low voice. "He just ignored your mother?" she commented in disbelief. "Yes." Ruby looks at her mom. She was hoping her mom was pissed off, but to her surprise, her mom had a happy smile on her face. Seeing that smile, Ruby's body shivered. She knew her mother very well, and from what she understands of her mother, she only shows that smile when she finds something interesting. "Luna!" Suddenly, Scottahatch spoke. "Yes?" Luna squealed in surprise. Luna, who was silent along with Natalia, Maria, and Kaguya in the corner of the room, runs to Scottahatch's side.
"Thanks for contacting me. You did a good job. But now I want you to do something for me." Scathach whispered something in Luna's ear. "Yes, ma'am," Luna responded, like a soldier responding to his superior. Then she ran out of the room. When Ruby heard her mother's words, she looked at Luna with a look that said she would give her punishment for having a big mouth. "Huh?" Violet, who was in her world with Victor, suddenly looks at Scathach, who yelled loudly, "Bitch, begone! Why are you still here? The room will stink of antiquity. Shoo, shoo!" "Heh, looks like you want to get punished again, brat." Scathach's eyes sparkled a little. Violet's body shuddered, and she hugged Victor tighter. "Darling, I'm being bullied." "She doesn't learn, huh? Doesn't she understand that your mother is vindictive?" Sasha commented as she looked at Violet. A bit annoyed, she thought, she's taking advantage of the situation. "Well, she's Violet. She doesn't have any sense," Ruby added. I look at Violet and see her face saying, "I want to be spoiled." She was so cute I couldn't resist. I put my face close to her and kiss her. She looked surprised for a moment, but as soon as she kissed me again, our tongues began to battle for dominance. Slowly, my bloodlust exploded. I felt my teeth start to change and also felt my eyes shift to blood red. Ah! I stop kissing Violet and look at the two voices. As soon as I see Ruby and Sasha with red faces, I could clearly feel what they wanted. I could feel it from our connection that got so much stronger than before. Eat, I spoke in a low voice, but strangely my voice resonated throughout the room. Oh, Skathak displayed a curious smile. Suddenly, Sasha disappears and appears at my right side. As soon as she opens her mouth and bites my neck, I felt my blood drain. Violet puts her face on the other side of my neck and licks me, then she bites me too. "Let go of me!" I heard Ruby's furious scream. When I look at Ruby, I see my wife is being held by her mother. "Interesting," she said. She was completely lost in the desire for blood. I suddenly feel a desire to be full, and that desire had taken over my actions, and that desire was affecting my wives too. Violet, Sasha, and I look at Ruby's mom. "Release!" we speak in a unison. The woman's body trembled a little, and then she lets go of Ruby. "Huh?" the expectant woman exclaimed in surprise. She looked at her hand and realized she wasn't holding her daughter anymore. Ruby disappears and appears at my left side. "Darling, darling!" Soon she bites my collarbone. The moment she bites me, I feel complete. When the desire to feel full has been sated, my bloodlust exploded again. I couldn't think of anything. I was very thirsty, and I just wanted my wife's blood. I open my mouth and bite Violet's neck. "Ah, darling!" Seeing Victor feasting on the blood of his 3 wives, Skathak's smile grew distorted. "Kaguya, explain to me everything that happened from the moment that Victor was turned," she ordered. Kaguya approaches Skathak. She looks at the woman for a few seconds, as if thinking about something. Then she makes a decision. She is Ruby's mother. She has a right to know the truth. "It all happened the day Violet turned Victor into a vampire," Kaguya began to explain in a neutral tone all the events she knew. Hearing everything that happened, Skathash's smile just grew and grew. When Kaguya finished explaining everything that had happened since the moment Victor turned into a vampire. "What's his blood type?" she asked curiously. "RH null blood, the golden blood." She started laughing like she was crazy. Kaguya just looked at the woman, wondering if this mad woman was right in her head. And to think that history would repeat itself with my daughter. She looked very happy for some reason. Countess Skathash knows about something. She stopped laughing for a moment and looked at Kaguya with a slight smile on her face. "Who knows? I'm quite old. Maybe I'm just crazy." Kaguya's face twitched a little. She didn't expect her to respond like that. Skathash exhibited a soft smile on her face, took a deep breath, and let the air out of her lungs. "It's been a while since I laughed like that. When was the last time? I think about 500 years ago?" Kaguya, seeing the woman's H-cup breasts sway when she made this simple gesture, just clicked her annoyed tongue. Skathash walks slowly towards Victor with a smile on her face. She sits on the sofa that was next to the one that held Victor and his wives. She crossed her legs sensually and spoke with killing intent leaking from her body. "That's enough. Have some kind of respect for yourself. Doing that in front of everyone is inappropriate." The instinct of the 4 exploded, warning of danger. They quickly broke apart and rose from the couch, prepared to fight. The reaction is fast, but not good enough. Mother? Wipe your mouth, daughter. How inappropriate." Ruby's face turns bright red, and she quickly licks her lips. "I can't believe I did this in front of my mother." "Sasha Folger, I hear your mother lost her vampire title on some stupid bet, as expected of her."
Yes, as expected of her. Sasha nodded in disdain as she licked her lips. Violet Snow, I heard your father woke up. Do you intend to come home? Skathosh asked. I am not. My house is next to my darling, Violet spoke as she hugged Victor. I looked at Violet and smiled kindly, then patted her head. Seeing the goofy smile on her face, my heart melts into cuteness. I look at Kaguya. Kaguya, do your magic. Understanding what I mean, Kaguya nods and then disappears into darkness. Then she covers Violet's body in darkness. Like magic, Violet's outfit changed from a nightgown to an outfit that looks like a cosplay she always wore. Done. Good job, Kaguya, I said as I stroked Kaguya's head. Her body shook a little and she turned her face away. Soon I stop petting Kaguya and sit down on the couch again. Violet sits on my right side, Ruby sits on my left side, and Sasha, who was a little embarrassed about the whole situation, sits next to Ruby. And Kaguya was behind me, along with Natalia and Maria. I look at the woman. We haven't introduced ourselves yet, right? I display a gentle smile. My name is Victor Walker. Nice to meet you, mother-in-law. Again, I feel the atmosphere around me tense as if I've said something wrong. She displays a dangerous smile and licks her lips. Nice to meet you, Victor. I am Ruby's mother. My name is Skathosh Scarlet. Now that we've introduced ourselves, let's talk about important matters. I keep smiling. Oh? She looks curious about what I'm going to say. I want to ask your permission to be with Ruby. The woman's smile suddenly disappears. Darling, this is too fast. Ruby looked at me with fear evident on her face. Yes, darling, you must talk to my mother first, Violet spoke jealously. Idiot, that's not what she's talking about. Read the room, Sasha yelled at Violet. Huh? Violet was confused. Question marks started appearing around me, and I was confused why they were reacting like that. Brat, don't you understand your situation? Ruby's mother spoke in a neutral tone. I understand my situation, I said as I looked at her. I married your daughter, and I didn't ask your permission for that, right? Indeed, that's it. She looked at me with a stunned expression. Don't worry, I intended to do this with each of my wives, I commented with a small smile. Heh, she flashed a small smile. What are you going to do if I don't allow you to be with Ruby? Mother? Silence, Ruby. Her eyes glowed red for a moment. Yes, Ruby recoiled. Answer me. She looked at me again. The answer to that question was simple. I don't intend to do anything. Huh? Huh? Ruby and her mother exclaimed in unison. I continue with a slight smile on my face. At the end of it all, your opinion in this matter doesn't matter much, I commented honestly. Brat, I interrupt. Ruby is already married to me. What I'm doing here is just a formality. Whether you allow it to happen or not, it doesn't matter anymore.
I look at Ruby. All that matters is Ruby's willingness. If she wants to be with me, then I'll make it happen. Darling, Ruby spoke with a red face and a small happy smile on her face. It was pretty obvious she wasn't against it. Brat, you're talking too loud for someone who doesn't have the strength. Skathosh spoke in a venomous tone as her killing intent seeped from her body. She looked quite annoyed. I look at Skathosh and I explained, yes, I'm weak now, but sometimes you can't solve some situations with brute force. Heh, she flashed a sneer. If I kill you now, you can never be with my daughter. I saw Sasha, Ruby, and Violet's faces distorted in anger for a few seconds. Think with me. If you kill me now, what will happen? I asked in a neutral tone. I would bring my daughter back home, that's all. What about her bloodlust? You know the ritual. She can handle it. After all, she is my daughter. If I can handle this bloodlust, she can too. Oh, she lost her husband? Come to think of it, I don't know much about my wives' families. The only one I know a little better is Sasha's family. Naive, I commented. Huh? Her face was distorted. You are naive. Your way of thinking is very naive, I said. Then I continue, Ruby isn't you. If I disappear, what guarantees she won't go crazy from bloodlust? She was silent as she looked at me. And even worse, what guarantees she won't hate you? I asked, smiling a little. Huh? She put on a confused face. She would hate me? Her own mother? That is impossible. Why is it impossible? You've already lived a long time, right? From the way you speak, I can say that, I said, and added, then you must know how easily a child can hate their parents. She bites her lip, and I see her eyes glow blood red. That's why I said, it doesn't matter if you approve of Ruby and me. In the end, I'll still stick with Ruby, I spoke neutrally, and added, smiling happily, I just became something irreplaceable for Ruby, and you can't do anything about it. Indeed. Scathach lowered her head a little, her bangs hiding her eyes, and soon she started biting her nail. I could feel Ruby shaking a little as she held my hand. I looked away briefly and saw that Sasha was very alert. It looked like she was ready to do something if the situation called for it. Darling, this is dangerous. You said too much. Violet spoke seriously in a low voice. I just smile and pat Violet's head. I look at Scathach again. Scathach? Scarlet. Huh? She looks at me, and when I see her eye gleam, for a moment I feel my whole body tremble with fear and excitement. But then I display a big smile that shows all my sharp teeth. Wouldn't killing me be a waste? Waste? The moment I saw you, do you know what I felt? Finally, I decide to be honest. She kept looking at me. Afraid. I feel scared, but I also feel disappointed and frustrated. Oh, she displayed a big smile. I get up from the couch and walk slowly over to Scathach. I kneel on the floor and look into her red eyes. I touch it lightly and caress her face. A strong opponent was in front of me, but I didn't have enough strength to face it, so I couldn't satisfy my desire to fight. This is really frustrating. Her red eyes that were glowing seemed to lose intensity, then her smile grew in a distorted way that showed all her sharp teeth. This smile just made me more excited, but this is really disappointing. Indeed, I agreed. I stop stroking her face and pull away. When I look at my wives, I just saw them looking at me shocked. Even Natalia, Maria, and Kaguya, who were always stoic, were looking at me with their mouths open. Why are they reacting like this? I thought. When I sit down on the couch again and look at Scathach, I was taken aback by the gentle expression she was showing. She was so beautiful. I feel Violet and Ruby pinching my leg, and as soon as I wake up from my stupor, I look at my wives and see my wives' annoyed expressions. Ruby, my beloved daughter, I allow you to be with Victor. She spoke with a sensual smile. She looked completely different from a few moments ago. Huh? Thanks, Mother, Ruby thanked her. I decided something too. Suddenly, Scathach disappears and appears in front of me, and with a simple gesture, she attacks my stomach. Kah! I was breathless from the sudden attack, and soon I felt another attack on my neck that made me lose consciousness. Everything happened so fast that no one could react. Mother, Ruby squealed in surprise. What are you doing, bitch? Let go of my darling, Violet yelled angrily. Realizing what was happening, lightning starts to crackle in Sasha's body, and she screams angrily, Let go of my husband! Scathach ignores Violet and Sasha's threats. She holds Victor like a sack of potatoes and speaks with a sensual smile as she licks her lips. I'm kidnapping my son-in-law. Huh? The three women exclaimed in unison. Before they could do anything, Scathach disappears along with Victor.
Bitch! Violet screamed in uncontrolled fury. Her face was distorted with rage and the fire poured out of her body uncontrollably. Realizing the danger of getting close to Violet, Maria, Natalia, Ruby, and Sasha quickly run away from Violet. Calm down, Violet, Ruby screamed, and when she heard the sound of thunder, she looked at Sasha, who was covered in lightning. She looked like she was about to do something. You too, Sasha, calm down. Calm down. Sasha's face twisted in anger. My husband has been kidnapped. How could I be calm? Ruby started to get angry. You fools! Ruby's voice started to get cold, and the room started to get terribly cold. Then she spoke in a tone that made the maids shiver. You have forgotten where you are. Control your powers. Listening to what Ruby said, Sasha and Violet bite their lips in frustration and regain consciousness, so they quickly rein in her powers. Ruby sighs. This place has protection, but what if you decide to get out of hand now? Do you want to hurt Darling's parents? You're right, Sasha sighs. What should we do now? Violet doesn't say anything. She just looks at Ruby, waiting for her words. My mom won't hurt our darling, Ruby started to explain. Remember what happened in the past when a man she didn't think was suitable approached me. They were exterminated, Sasha replied. Wrong. Their entire family was wiped out, Violet added. See? Ruby smiled. My mom approved of Victor. That means he'll be fine. I think. Huh? You're not sure? Violet raised her voice. Violet, you know my mother. She is very unpredictable. Violet bit her lip in frustration as she muttered various forms of torture she intended to do to anyone who touched Victor. I think she's going to train Victor, Sasha said, who was a little calmer. You're right. She likes people who have potential, Ruby nodded. And my darling is a man with great potential. What do you think will happen to him? Violet asked as her eyes darkened. Ruby silenced. She didn't want to answer that question. This got interesting, right? Natalia suddenly spoke with a smile on her face. Violet, Ruby, and Sasha look at Natalia with a neutral gaze. Natalia, we should go home, Violet said. I know, but you guys need to sort something out first, Natalia said as she pointed up. You're right. Darling's parents are going to be worried, Ruby said. How are we supposed to do this? I don't think telling the truth would be the ideal option, Sasha asked. Then she adds, a few days ago, Violet had to lie and tell Victor's mom over the phone that she was going on her honeymoon with her son. I think this lie won't work again. I don't know how long it will take, but this time I think it will take months for him to come home. Ruby puts her hand on her chin and starts to think about what to do. Where is Kaguya? Violet asked. Oh, she's in Victor's shadow, Natalia replied. The three wives all opened their mouths in shock. She's fast, Sasha spoke. As expected, Ruby smiled. Good job, Kaguya. I'm going to raise her salary. Violet displayed a happy smile. Why are you so happy? Sasha asked curiously. Kaguya is a dedicated maid. She will send me Darling's location. Oh, you're right, Sasha nods in agreement. Violet, Sasha, use your head, Ruby spoke in a neutral tone. Huh? Ruby explains. If my mom kidnapped Victor, she probably took him to that place. Fuck, Violet didn't like it at all. That place, huh? Sasha puts her hand on her chin and she looks at Ruby. Sasha's eyes suddenly darken. Ruby, are your foster sisters in that place? Violet turns to face Ruby. She has the same face as Sasha. Ruby started to sweat a little when she saw Sasha and Violet's faces, but soon she replied, Yes, they'll be in that place. Fuck! Violet explodes again, and soon her body is covered in fire. She looks at Natalia. Open the portal. I'm going back home. I have to protect my darling. Yes, Lady Violet. Natalia wasted no time. She snaps her finger and then smiles. Done. Before Ruby and Sasha could react, Violet opened the door and walked through a portal that looked like the galaxy. Sasha's body started to crackle with lightning, but before she could follow Violet, her body was frozen by Ruby. You won't run away now. You must work something out with me first. Natalia, close the portal. Yes, Lady Ruby. Natalia snaps her finger, and soon the portal that looked like a galaxy disappeared. Ruby unfreezes Sasha. Why did you stop me? Before Ruby can say anything, she asks Natalia,
What is someone from Clan Alioth doing with Violet? Shouldn't you just serve the king's family? This is a secret, Natalia smiled gently. Tss, Sasha clicked her tongue in annoyance. Then, knowing she won't get Natalia's answer, she loses interest. She thinks for a moment and looks at Maria. Her eyes glow a little blood red, and she says, "You can act normally." Maria's body trembles a little, and soon she regains control of her actions. "Why did you do that?" Maria asked in a cold, suspicious tone. "I just don't want you to die for a random vampire when we get back home," Sasha spoke in an emotionless tone. "Huh?" Maria didn't understand why she did it. Ruby, who was watching all this, said, "Come on, Sasha, we have to go somewhere." "Okay," Sasha agreed. "Natalia, wait for us here. We're going to need your skill, and keep an eye on her." Ruby pointed at Maria. Natalia bowed a little. "Your wish is my command, Lady Ruby." The evening that same day. "I was trying to guess why you needed me to change my clothes into this simple outfit," Sasha spoke in disbelief as she stared at the door of Victor's parents' house. Sasha was wearing simple pants that looked too tight on her thighs. She was wearing a long brown shirt with a V neckline that showed a little bit of her F-cup breasts. You are crazy?" Sasha spoke in a stutter, while her face was a little red with embarrassment. "Yes?" Ruby's face seemed to be frozen. "Ruby?" Sasha approached Ruby. "Are you nervous?" she asked, as she looked at Ruby's face stoic. "Nervous?" she stuttered. Seeing the smile on Sasha's face, she said, "I'm fine." "Shh! Speak quietly," yelled Sasha. "Huh?" Ruby just looked at Sasha with a blank expression. "Let's get this over with," she spoke in a neutral tone. Ruby clicked on Victor's doorbell. They heard the bell, and the two girls' hearts nearly came out of their mouth when they heard the voice of the woman who was clearly Victor's mother. When the door opens and they see a beautiful woman with long black hair and sapphire blue eyes, they can't help but think that this woman is a lot like Victor. Who are you?" The woman looked at the two women as if sizing them up. Then she looked at Ruby's bust for a moment and she thought, "So big. Is she bigger than mine?" The woman looked at Sasha's legs and thought, "Her legs are so thick." She looked at the appearance of the two women again and thought, "I don't remember meeting a blue-eyed blonde with such thick legs and a red-headed redhead with breasts bigger than mine." Ruby's face was so red at this point that her brain wasn't thinking straight. "Mother, we are Victor's two wives. Nice to meet you." "Huh?" The woman's brain stopped working. "Ruby!" Sasha's face turned red with embarrassment. She approaches Ruby's ear and speaks, "What are you doing, idiot?" Ruby looks at Sasha with red eyes, almost crying, and speaks, "I don't know anymore." "Fix the misunderstanding quick," she whispered, almost screaming. "Why don't you help too?" whispered Ruby. "Don't ask for the impossible." The woman has come out of her stupor, and she looks at the two women again. "What did you two say?" Sasha was startled by the sudden question. "Mother, we are Victor's two wives. Nice to meet you." "Huh?" "Idiot!" Ruby yelled. "Oh, my boy has two more wives." She didn't think it was a lie. As an experienced lawyer, she knew when someone was lying, and these two girls weren't. Suddenly, the woman touched her head and looked sick, and slowly she starts to fall. "Mother?" Ruby and Sasha yell in unison. They quickly grab the woman and see that she was unconscious. My head is hurting. Where am I? I look around and see I was in a room I didn't know. The room looked old. I felt like I walked into those old movies. "Hey, you finally woke up, stranger." Suddenly, I heard a woman's voice. I look towards where I heard the woman's voice, and I see a girl with wild, long, red hair. She was on the ceiling of the room, standing as if gravity didn't affect her. But then the girl fell to the ground and stood up. She was very short. I think she must have been Kaguya's height. She was wearing a simple red dress. She looked at me with a big smile on her face. Suddenly, I remember what happened and I get out of bed. "Wow, you're big." I heard the girl's voice, but I ignored her. She seemed to be talking about my height. I look around and see a window. I walk towards the window, and when I see the world outside, I couldn't help asking out loud, "Where in the seven hells am I?"
A dark city with architecture that reminded me of medieval times. A place where the sun never rises. A place where every corner is an unknown danger. A city that was built thinking about the nature of vampires. That was the impression I had when I first looked at this city. "Welcome to Nightingale, the city of moonlight, stranger," I heard the girl's voice. I look at her and ask, "Who are you, and where am I?" "Me? My name is Lacus," she replied, but suddenly another voice added, "Lord Victor, you are in the world of vampires. Be careful when acting." "Kaguya?" I called, confused. I look around and I don't see her, but when I looked at my shadow, I saw Kaguya's shadow. She seemed to have a slight smile on her face. "Kaguya?" The girl looked confused. "Never mind," I said, trying to change the subject. I look down and see that I was in a nightgown. "Where are my clothes?" The girl didn't say anything, she just pointed to a spot. I look at the place and see a small dresser with black clothes on top. I walk over to the clothes and pick them up. Black suit, black shirt, and black gloves. I look at the woman. "Why is everything black?" "Mother ordered it," she spoke in a neutral tone. "Skathach," I said with a smile on my face. The girl's red eyes suddenly glowed blood red. "It's Countess Skathach for you. Have respect, stranger." "Heh," I smiled with a distorted face and said, "Where's Skathach?" Suddenly the woman's killing intent exploded. She opened her mouth and I could see that her teeth were sharper. I just looked at her with a smile on my face as I thought, her killing intent is much weaker than Skathach. Sigh. Did Lord Victor acquire suicidal tendencies when his evolution ended? Why are you teasing her? "I just didn't like the way she talked to me, that's it," I spoke out loud while ignoring the girl and putting on my clothes. After experiencing the pressure of my mother-in-law, I got numb. I think this girl is strong, but my instincts don't scream danger like when I faced my mother-in-law. Finishing dressing, I looked at the girl who was still staring at me. "Won't you guide me?" Finally, the girl's pressure disappeared and she looked at me with a bit of shock on her face. "What?" I asked. "Oh," I smiled, a sharp, toothy grin at the girl. "After experiencing the pressure of my mother-in-law, I got numb, and it doesn't seem to affect me anymore." "Mother-in-law?" she stuttered in shock. "Yes, I'm Ruby's husband. Didn't you know?" "No, Mother just threw you in here and told me to keep an eye on you." She practically yelled, red-faced. Why was she embarrassed? "That's something she would do. Now, will you guide me?" I asked. "Yes, haha. If I knew you were my sister's husband, I wouldn't treat you like that. Come on, I'll take you to my mother." The girl's attitude suddenly changed when she found out I was Ruby's husband. And why did she believe me so easily? Isn't she very innocent? ... Walking through the house, building, mansion, I don't know anymore. This place is too big. I look around, I think this is a mansion. And despite being a massive mansion, it was very empty. How many vampires live in this place? Me, Pepper, Sienna, Ruby, and our mom. There's Ruby's personal maid, who is Luna, but she's doing something for my mom now. I see. I actually didn't understand why this place was so empty, but she didn't seem like she was going to explain anymore. Soon I hear Kaguya's voice. Unlike other count houses, Countess Skathach doesn't have many subordinates. After all, just her alone is enough to sustain the title of vampire count. Strange. Why aren't any count houses attacking her? I asked out loud as I ignored Lacus's confused face. They are afraid of retaliation.
Countess Skathach is just too strong, and the count houses are prohibited from fighting each other on orders of the king. Oh, but that doesn't apply to noble houses, huh? I spoke when I remembered that my wife Sasha's family lost the count title through a game. Yes, any noble house can request a game with a count house, but they must be prepared for retaliation if they lose. Oh, explain. I was interested.
Are you crazy, brother-in-law? Why are you talking to yourself? Lacus asked. I like to talk to myself, I reply, smiling. Oh, she turned her face and kept walking, but I could hear, is Ruby right in her head to choose this madman as a husband? My smile almost broke when I heard her calling me crazy. I hear Kaguya's voice again. The rules are simple. Houses with the title of counts cannot fight each other, nor can they request a match for the noble house. After all, this would be considered an abuse of power, because typically vampire counts are vampires who have lived over 1,000 years and have already accumulated a lot of influence and strength. If the noble house loses the game with the count's house, they have to be prepared for retaliation. Vampire counts are prohibited from attacking the lowest nobles, but there is a rule where this does not apply when the noble house attacks the vampire count's house. As I understand it, it's a system that benefits the noble houses. The families that have the title of count cannot fight each other, and they can't ask for a game to fight the noble houses that have no title either. But the houses of nobles that have no title can ask for a game with the houses of counts at any time. What are the consequences of losing this game? If the game is betting a nobleman's title and both parties agree, the consequences of losing this game are everything. Everything? Yes, they lose everything. All riches, all possessions, and even vampires become property of the loser. What did you say? An irritating feeling started to grow in my heart, and soon it spread through my entire body. Kaguya, I called. Oh! Lacus looked interested in what was going on. Kaguya steps out of my shadow, and I look at her. What do you mean by properties? Exactly what the word means. All vampires in that house become the loser's property. They become slaves. Kaguya spoke coldly. My smile distorts, but it's not from fun. It's from hate. My beloved wife's family lost a game recently. Just imagining my wife being owned by someone else, this hatred spreads throughout my body. It was like a fire that burned throughout my body. This can only be a bad joke. Is my beloved honey someone else's property? I leaned against the wall as I put my hand on my chest. My heart was beating too fast. Unforgivable. Crack! I heard the wall break with the force I put in, but I didn't care. Lord Victor, calm down. Kaguya approaches me and starts massaging my chest. We still don't know if that's what happened. You need to calm down and control your instincts. Crack! Crack! I tighten my grip on the wall, and soon the wall collapses. I take a deep breath and force a gentle smile onto my face. You're right, Kaguya. I need to learn more. I stroked Kaguya's head, and somehow it made me calmer. Thank you. She nodded as she smiled. I look down the hall, and soon my vision changes to a blood-red world. I see 3 female vampires in this place. One female vampire was in a room that looked like a bathroom, and the other 2 were sitting in a room that looked like a bedroom. For a moment, one of the vampires who was sitting looked at me and smiled. I found her, I smile. I see Kaguya stepping into my shadow, and then I run towards my mother-in-law. When Victor ran towards Skathach, Lacus, who was nearby, just stared at the wall that had been reduced to ash when Victor left. Oh, isn't that the Snow Clan skill? Her eyes sparkled with curiosity.
2 women with long red hair and red eyes were having a red tea while looking at the moon. "So why did you kill your husband?" Scathach asked the woman next to her in a neutral voice. The woman next to Scathach was wearing long black stockings, a short blue dress, and black high heels. "He approached me just to be on good terms with you, Mother," she explained. "The usual?" "Indeed," the woman nodded. "Sienna, my beloved eldest daughter, why don't you create a husband? I already made this suggestion. How long ago was it?" 700 years. "Yes," Scathach smiled gently. "My memory is a little bad because of my old age," she laughed seductively. Sienna just rolled her eyes when she saw her mother attitude. "I don't want to create a husband. After all, that isn't going to be something real like I'm looking for." "Heh, despite being over 700 years old, you're still naive." "I'm not naive. You know I just want something real, and male vampires are just obsessed with things like titles." "Then why don't you turn a human, then?" Sienna's face twisted in disgust. "Turning cattle into a husband? No, thank you." Scathach rolled her eyes at the eldest foster daughter's attitude. Soon she lost interest in the subject and looked toward the bedroom entrance with a big smile on her face. Seeing her mother's smile, Sienna thought, "Looks like she found something interesting to do again." Suddenly, the bedroom door was broken and Victor appeared. "Scathach." Victor looked at Scathach and ignored the woman next to her. Sienna's eye twitched a little when she heard the disrespectful way Victor called Scathach. As the daughter of the strongest female vampire in the world, she had a lot of respect for her mother, and she didn't like someone inferior calling her so informally. And this feeling was shared by the 3 adoptive sisters. Sienna was about to say something, but her mother's following words left her speechless. "Heh," she smiled seductively as she crossed her legs elegantly. "My son-in-law, were you so desperate to see me?"
At the same time, in Victor's house. "Here, I got water," Sasha offered. Thanks." Anna was still very shaken. She drank all the water in one gulp. Then, when she saw Zach walking calmly through the house, she quickly got up from the couch and grabbed him. "Meow." She sits down on the couch again and starts stroking Zach. "Meow." Ruby and Sasha's eyes sparkled for a moment when they saw Zach. They thought he looked too cute to pet. Sasha approaches Ruby and sits beside her. Anna looks at the 2 women and sighs. "Okay, let's start at the beginning." Yes." Ruby was a little nervous. "First, did you do that?" "That?" Ruby and Sasha didn't understand. "I mean, what husband and wife do. Did you guys do it?" "Oh," Sasha exclaimed, and then she remembers the moment she sucked Victor's blood. "Yes, we did," she smiled. "Indeed," Ruby confirmed. "Oh, I see." She stuttered a little and squeezed Zach a little harder without realizing it. "Meow." Realizing what she was doing to Zach, she quickly stopped squeezing Zach. Anna takes a deep breath and asks, "You said you were married to my son, right?" "Yes," both confirmed. "Violet, does she know?" For some reason, she didn't stop stuttering. "Yes, she knows." "Yes, she accepted our relationship," Sasha confirmed as well. Anna looked at the 2 women with a blank expression. Both women were sweating profusely now. They were a little afraid of being rejected by Anna. Anna sighed again. She looked tired, like she lost some kind of battle. "How can I say? Congratulations on the wedding, I guess." "Huh?" Anna's words took time to register in Ruby and Sasha's brains. "Thanks," Ruby smiled happily. "Thanks, Mother." Sasha stuttered a little. Seeing the 2 women's honest smiles, Anna looked like she'd suffered heart damage. "I think my son will die soon. He was very lucky in a short time. Something is not right." Anna's own thoughts were confused. "And to imagine that my son would have 3 wives." After the initial shock, she slowly began to come back to her personality. In our country, this is normal. Oh? Which country do you live in? Ruby was taken aback by the question. Legally, she is registered as Romanian, but the country she lives in is not registered on the world map. Sasha looks at Ruby with a talkative look, and then she continues, "We live in a small community in Romania." Romania? But Romania doesn't have polygamy. Sasha was nervous. "We live in a small community, but that's not a problem. We can get married in Alabama." Ruby looked at Sasha like she was looking at an idiot. "But Alabama is for incest," Anna said. "Huh?" Sasha's face turned red. Suddenly, Anna's face darkened in horror. "Don't tell me my son went after your sister, or even worse, he went after your mother. Does he plan to make oyakodon?" No." Sasha was more confused than she was, and her eyes began to roll. "She meant that in our community polygamy is allowed," Ruby helped Sasha. "Oh." Anna's face cleared a little. Then she sighed. "I need to talk to my son." "That's what we came to talk about," Ruby continued. "Huh?" Anna looked at Ruby. Seeing Anna's look, Ruby started to get nervous again. She found it very difficult to talk about it with her husband's mother. Her eyes started to roll. "Sasha, Violet, and I want Victor to find our moms to ask her to marry him." "Huh? Huh?" Anna and Ruby herself didn't understand. "As expected, it's an oyakodon." Anna puts her hand to her head as if she has a bad headache. Zach takes this chance and runs away from Anna's lap. "No, that's not it." Sasha takes a deep breath and says it all at a fast pace. "She meant that Victor traveled from Violet to Romania with the intention of asking our mothers for their blessings for our marriage." Sasha could embarrass most rap singers in the world with the speed she spoke those words. "He traveled to Romania to meet his mother-in-law." Anna leaned back on the couch. "My son is growing up fast. Until a week ago, he didn't even have a girlfriend." She looked like she'd reached enlightenment. Suddenly, the women hear the door open. "Honey, I'm home," Leon said. Victor's father spoke as he walked towards the living room. When he arrived in the room and saw two beautiful women, he suddenly stopped in shock and looked at his wife confused. Then, seeing the state of his wife, he was even more confused. "What's going on here?"
"Hello, father-in-law," the two said. "Huh?" He opened his mouth in shock. Unaware of the little chaos his wives were causing with his parents, Victor was at this point meeting his mother-in-law. "Heh," she smiled seductively as she crossed her legs elegantly. "My son-in-law, were you so desperate to see me?" I swallow a little dryly when I look at my mother-in-law. She really knew how to tease me with just a simple gesture. When I was going to answer her question, I heard the woman next to her saying, "Son-in-law?" Looking at her, I see a woman with long red hair and eyes as red as Scathach. "Who are you?" I asked. Before the woman could say anything, I heard from Scathach, "She is my eldest adopted daughter." "Oh, cool." Anyway, I lost interest. I look at my mother-in-law, who was wearing clothes that seemed glued to her curvy body. "Why did you kidnap me?" My mother-in-law's smile grew. She got up and walked towards me sensually. For a moment, I was mesmerized by those two mountains that looked unbearably soft. They were full, round, smooth, and perfectly shaped. She gently touched my face and spoke with the same sensual tone as if she were seducing me. "You said it was a shame you weren't strong enough to fight me, right?" Slowly, my smile grew, and I nodded. "Yes. We should fix that, right?" Her smile changed to a predator's smile that showed all her sharp teeth. "Oh, fuck. She found another madman," I heard Sienna speak, but I ignored her. Scathach's smile changed to a satisfied smile. She took her hand away from my face and looked at a spot. Then she yelled, "Pepper!" Her voice seemed to resonate throughout the mansion. "Yesh," I heard an awkward voice answering.
Suddenly, a woman with long red hair, a curvy body, and breasts that seemed to rival Scathach appeared. She was just wearing a towel around her body. "I've arrived, Mother." She put a hand to her head like a soldier. "Good." She looked at me, and for a moment she seemed to study my reaction, but seeing me not reacting much, she seemed pleased with something. "Your initial training is simple. You must identify and learn to use your powers." Before she can finish, I open my hand. Suddenly, a fireball appears. "Oh," she displayed a curious smile. "Huh?" exclaimed Sienna in surprise. "Fue?" Pepper looked, surprised. The fire disappeared, and soon lightning began to crackle in my hand. Then the lightning disappeared, and soon a block of ice appeared in my hand. "Even my mother's powers," Sienna said, looking at me. "Ruby married someone interesting," I heard someone's voice. I looked to Sienna's side and saw Lacus smiling with a curious look. I point my hand in a direction that had no one in and say, "All blood belongs to me." But nothing happens. "What are you trying to do?" I heard Scathach asking, her voice sounding heavier than usual. "Give me a sec." What did I do? Remember the memory I got from Ruby. I close my eyes and try again, but I can't. Tsk, I can't get the right feeling to use that power. Suddenly, I heard a voice in my ear that shivered through my whole body. "Victor, don't be in a hurry." I looked to the side and see Scathach's distorted smile. Her eyes were glowing red, and she was staring at me with a possessive face. "You have all the time in the world to get better." She spoke with a seductive smile. "You're right." Seeing that smile made my body shiver. I needed to fight her. "Train the basics with Pepper. She may be an airhead, but she's strong." "I will." I nod and pull my attention away from my mother-in-law and look at Pepper. I walk over to the woman and pick her up like a sack of potatoes. "Kya!" she yelled in a thin voice. "What are you doing?" "You have to train me, right? I'm kidnapping you." "Great, he has the same attitude as my mom," Sienna said, but as usual, I ignored her. "Huh?" Before she can say anything, I put strength in my legs and run to an open spot that I saw with my eyes. When Victor left, Sienna asked her mother, "Is that all right?" Scathach looked at her daughter. When Sienna saw her mother smile, she felt her entire body tremble in fear. "Oh, about Pepper? It's all right. Victor is a good man. He won't do anything against Pepper." Sienna and Lacus opened their mouths looking like a fish who didn't know what to say. They were just too shocked. They had never seen their mother praise a man in their life before. "You look happy, Mom," Lacus commented. "Happy?" Scathach spoke, confused. Then she put her hand to her face. Maybe I am." Her smile changed to a seductive smile. "I have something to do. I'll see you guys later." Scathach soon disappears. "I think she's glad she found a man with potential. After all, she likes to fight," Lacus questioned. "Is that what you think?" Sienna asked as she looked at her sister. "Yes," Lacus replied. She looked at her sister. "What do you think?" "I don't know, but she wouldn't react so strongly if that man just had a big potential." The two sisters had many doubts in their heads, but one thing they were sure of: they were curious about the man who had piqued their mother's interest.
Going through the portal, Violet realized she was at her house. Just as she was about to leave her house and look for Victor, she heard a cold voice. "Lady Violet, you finally came home." She looks at the voice and sees a maid with short white hair and blue eyes. She was the personal maid and head maid of the Snow Clan. "Oh, it's you, Hilda. Anyway, I'm leaving." Violet starts running towards Scathach's mansion. She passes by Hilda's side. "Wait!" Hilda grabbed Violet by her shirt collar. "Ugh!" Violet was almost hanged. Then she turns to face Hilda. "Are you going to get in my way too?"
Seeing Violet's lifeless eyes, Hilda said coldly, "Of course not. But as a maid, I have a duty to do." She started walking as she dragged Violet by her shirt collar. "And my order was that when you came home, I should take you to meet your mother." "Let go of me. I don't want to see that old woman. I'm going back to my darling." Violet tried to free herself from Hilda's grip, but it was a futile attempt. Hilda has stopped walking. She looks at Violet. Her eyes change to blood red. "You did the ritual." Violet puts on a smug expression. "Of course I did." But soon her expression crumbles. Although there were some unforeseen events. "Oh, this is something your mother should know." Hilda started walking again. She pulled Violet and held her like a sack of potatoes. "Ugh!" Violet began to struggle. "Let go of me." Hilda ignored Violet and continued walking. "In all the millennia I've served the Snow family, I've never seen anyone as reckless as you." Hilda puts a hand to her face as if she's thinking about something and keeps talking in the same cold tone. "Coming to think about it, you have the same personality as your mother when she was younger, although you are less aggressive than her." "Annoying," Violet muttered angrily. Violet's body began to become covered in fire. "Oh?" Hilda looks at the fire in Violet's body. "Your powers have grown stronger. That's good news." Hilda smacks Violet on the ass. "Slap." "Ugh." "Don't be a rude child. You know the rules, right?" She spoke in a cold tone as her eyes glowed red. "Can't use powers indoors, right?" Violet snorted and continued. "I haven't forgotten. Now let go of me. The only one who can hit my ass is my darling." Hilda sighed. "I think it's because you're only 21 years old, and because of that, you're really spoiled." She started walking. Violet got angry again. "I'm already an adult by human standards. But to us, you're still a newborn baby." She looked around and even looked into her shadows. "Where's Kaguya and Natalia? Shouldn't they be protecting you?" Giving up on running away for now, Violet sighed and said, "Kaguya is protecting my darling, and Natalia stayed behind with Ruby and Sasha. The Folger heiress and the Scarlet heiress. I heard they were in that town too." "What happened to your darling?" she asked in a neutral tone. "He was kidnapped by Ruby's mother." Violet got angry again. "Oh, looks like Countess Scothach took an interest in your darling." "Of course she would be interested in him. He has great potential," she squealed proudly. "Oh?" Hilda displayed a small smile. Hilda enters a room and then she puts Violet on the floor. "Lady Agnes, Lord Adonis, I brought Lady Violet." "Hmm? Oh, good job, Hilda." Violet looks at her mother who was sitting on a sofa. She was a curvious woman with big H-cup breasts and skinny legs. She had pale vampire skin and golden eyes, a very unusual eye color even for vampires. She had long white hair that reached to our waist and wore simple glasses. She was wearing black leather pants and a long black shirt. "Are you still wearing those glasses, Mom? It's not like you have a vision problem," Violet commented. "But I look good in glasses, right?" Violet's mother, Agnes, spoke with a narcissistic smile. "Whatever," Violet snorted. "You're still in the same bad mood. I thought meeting your darling would calm you down a bit." She sneered at the word darling. Violet, hearing the obvious tone of contempt, didn't like it one bit. Violet looks at her mom, and slowly her eyes begin to darken. "What did you say, bitch?" Agnes's face distorted when she heard her daughter call her. "Are you that attached to those cattle?" Violet's eyes changed to blood red, and she looked at her own mother like she was about to jump her neck at any moment. "Daughter, don't fight with your mother in my room, okay?" She suddenly heard a gentle voice, gentle as if blessed by heaven itself. "Agnes, don't tease our daughter. She's different from you." He spoke a little coldly as his eyes glowed a little violet. Agnes turned her face away.
Violet ignores her mother, then looks at the bed and sees a pale, frail-looking man with short white hair and violet eyes. Despite looking like a frail man, he still displayed a supernatural beauty that was far superior to any woman and man Violet had encountered. Violet thought, "My dad is handsome, but my darling is prettier. But I'm a little jealous. I wish I had inherited just a little of that supernatural beauty." Violet looked at her mother's breast and thought, "I should have inherited those breasts too. Why is genes unfair?" Violet was still a woman. She still had few insecurities, especially now that Ruby had become Victor's wife. Adonis had a gentle expression on his face as he looked at his daughter. "Come here, daughter," he called her. Violet nodded and walked towards the bed. When she got closer to her father and saw how weak he was, she said, "Are you okay?"
Although she didn't show it when Scathach asked in the past, she was still worried about her father. She was closer to him than her very narcissistic mother. He smiled gently. "Yes, I'm fine. I just need to drink blood, and I'll be brand new." "Liar," she whispered. "You always say that, but you never get better." He laughed in a weak voice. He slapped the bed with a gesture for her to go up. "Come here. Tell me about your darling." Violet bites her lip. She wanted to talk to her father, but she wanted to find Victor first. Seeing her daughter's expression, he asked, Are you worried about something?" "I need to see my darling. He is in danger." "Oh, tell me what happened." Violet started to explain what happened to Victor, and without realizing it, she started talking more about Victor to her father. She climbed into bed and sat up, and soon she looked like a child who came home and told her father everything about her day. A few minutes later, Adonis laughed with a gentle smile. "He seems to be an interesting man. I would like to meet him in the future." "I will bring him in the future so you can meet him," Violet asked excitedly. Seeing how excited her daughter was, he laughed a gentle laugh and asked, "Just out of curiosity, you didn't kidnap him, right?" Violet thought for a moment and replied, Of course not." "Good, good. As expected, you are very different from your mother." He sighed, relieved for himself and for Victor. "Hey, why are you so happy?" Agnes, who was silent, asked, with a pout. Adonis looked at Agnes and spoke in a dry tone. "Well, the experience of being kidnapped and raped for a whole month can hardly be forgotten no matter how long I live." "Ugh!" She seemed to have taken damage, but then she spoke angrily. "Just forget about it. That happened 1,800 years ago. I'm not the same woman I was before." He flashed a gentle smile. "Indeed, you're no longer a crazy, psychopathic hedonist who did what you wanted." The woman's face just distorts several times, listening to what her husband was saying. He continued with the same gentle smile. "Now you're just a narcissistic woman, and because of that personality, your daughter doesn't like to talk to you." Agnes looks at Violet. "That's not true, right? You like me, right?" Violet just turned her face away and ignored her mother. Agnes looked like she could cry at any moment, but Violet and Adonis didn't care. Adonis sighed and looked at Violet and speaks with a fatherly smile. "Even though your mother is the way she is, I've learned to love her over the years." He said that, but inside he was thinking, "I was beaten by Stockholm Syndrome and those breasts. Well, she's better than that bitch Aphrodite and Persephone. My life is a disaster. It's a sin to be born beautiful." Adonis was a bit narcissistic too. "Darling." Agnes looked at Adonis with possessive eyes. Seeing Agnes's gaze, he smiled a helpless smile. He promised never to tell anyone he liked the look his wife gave him. Feeling a sudden pain in his chest, Adonis displays the best smile he can muster and says, "It's time, huh? I think you should find your darling." Violet's eyes flashed with possessiveness, and then she yelled, "Darling!" Soon she ran towards the exit of the mansion. He held back his laugh, but then he laughed gently. "I think she's a bit like you, Agnes." "Humph," Agnes snorted, but Adonis could see she had a gentle smile on her face. "I still don't agree with my daughter relating to cattle," she said grumpily.
Adonis exhibited a gentle smile and said, "Oh, so I'm cattle too? I see." Agnes's body shook and she quickly said, "No, you're different from those humans." "Oh? How am I different?" he asked curiously. Agnes's face glowed with possession. "You're mine, darling." Adonis just displayed an ironic smile.
A few minutes later, in the personal garden of Skathak's mansion, despite calling it a garden, this place looked more like a forest than a garden. The girl in front of me pretended to cough. She massaged her throat a little. She was trying to thicken her voice. Bead testing, 1, 2. She looks at me with a serious face and speaks. "My name is Pepper. As per my mother's orders, I'm responsible." I interrupted her. "Aren't you going to change your clothes?" "Fue?" She looked confused for a moment. She looked down and saw that she was still wearing a towel. "Oh!" Suddenly, I hear a small explosion, and I see her face turning bright red. Then she disappears with surprising speed. At the same time that happens, my shadow expands, and soon Kaguya comes out of my shadow. "Lord Victor?" "Oh, Kaguya, what happened?" I asked as I stroked her head. She doesn't say anything and just stays silent. Feeling her black hair in my hand, I smile contentedly and say, "While we wait for Pepper, do you have any training tips?" "Believe in yourself," she said. My smile threatened to break. Is that supposed to help me in any way? Noble vampires instinctively know how to use their powers when they are born. The only problem we have is controlling the output of our power. After all, depending on the noble vampire's bloodline, their power can reach absurd levels. "I see. So you were born geniuses," I continued, stroking her head. "You are wrong," Kaguya spoke. She thought for a moment and continued. "It's like a baby who instinctively knows how to cry or ask their mother for food. With our species, it's the same. We instinctively know how to use our power. The only problem we have is to control and improve that power to new levels." "I see." I understood what she said. It's like moving your arm. You know instinctively how to move your body, right? It's basically something like that. Suddenly, I see a red silhouette, and soon I see that Pepper has returned wearing new clothes. She's wearing a red uniform and black tights. She looks at me with her face a little embarrassed. Let's continue. She intends to ignore everything that happened, huh? "Okay," I said as I stopped stroking Kaguya's hair. "Ahem." She coughed again and explained in a cute voice. "Let's skip the basics. After all, you already know what your unique powers are, so what we're going to do today is learn to control the basic powers of a vampire." "What do you mean?" I asked, confused. "It's like this." She looks like she's going to demonstrate something. She looks at a tree in the distance and says, "Pay attention, I'll just run normal." Pepper suddenly positions herself. Her body starts to be covered by a fog, and she disappears and then reappears in front of the tree, and soon she returns to the same position again. See? This is a basic skill for all vampires. As creatures of the night, we can blend into the night easily. What I've demonstrated now is fog walking. That was cool. Can all vampires do this? Despite speaking in a neutral voice, my eyes were gleaming with curiosity. Yes, it's a basic skill. This time, Kaguya answered me. The basic vampire skills are fog walking, bat transformation, night vision, and claws, she said. She points her hand at me, and I see her hand has changed. Her nails have gotten sharper and more deadly, and her hand has seemed to grow stronger. Pepper looks at Kaguya with a pout on her face. Kaguya just looks at Pepper with a stoic look. Pepper puffed out her chest in annoyance. Boing, boing, and they swayed as crazy. For a moment, I see Kaguya's black eyes turning blood red. She looks annoyed at something. Soon, Pepper goes on to explain. Noble vampires usually ignore these basic abilities and focus only on the powers they inherited from their parents, for example. She pointed at Kaguya. This maid, she has the power to control the shadows, and using those powers, she modified the basic vampire abilities to fit her power. I remember Kaguya's fight with Mizuki, and I nod in agreement. She seemed to walk in the shadows in that fight. "Oh, do you know Kaguya?" I asked curiously. "Yes, she was always around when Violet came to visit Ruby." "Why doesn't Lacus know Kaguya?" "Lacus, she's really lazy. She just stays asleep and only wakes up when something interesting happens. She looked uncomfortable for some reason. Because of that, she doesn't know the people who visit our house." "Oh." I didn't know what to say. This seemed to be a family issue, something like having a child who was a NEET. Don't. She looks at me with neutral eyes, then continues, "Why don't you try to get used to the basic powers first? Try to use your basic vampire powers, and when you get used to them, we'll train the powers you were born with." "Why should we train these powers if they're not used a lot?" I asked with genuine doubt. After all, I haven't seen my wives using these powers. "My mother always said that the basics are the most important. You need a strong foundation to build the pillars for your strength in the future." I'll try. That sounds interesting too. I feel like those men in the comics who are discovering their powers. I position myself to run and, before I can do anything, I heard Kaguya warning me. "Remember, Lord Victor, don't use your unique powers, just use your racial powers." "I know, I just have to turn into mist, right?" "Yes," she confirmed. "Let's try." Pepper said I must know how to use this ability instinctively. I close my eyes and think of the image of Pepper running, focusing on what I should do. Then I open my eyes and I try to imitate what Pepper did. I put some strength in my legs and run towards the tree. Don't. Lacus and Sienna, who were drinking tea, suddenly hear an explosion as if a lightning bolt had fallen to the ground. Boom! "What is it? It is not raining." Lacus was startled by the sudden noise. Sienna just looks at her sister with a neutral expression. She drinks the tea, which contains a red drink, and explains, "The noise came from the garden. I think it's our mother's guest." Sienna stopped talking when she saw Lacus had left. She sighs. She is too rushed. Pepper and Kaguya heard an explosion as if a lightning bolt had fallen to the ground, and soon they saw the tree destroyed and in pieces. Then fire started to be created from Victor's body, and soon he slammed his body into a rock. "Well, I knew it would happen, but the destruction is bigger than I expected," Kaguya commented. "Wah wah wah! The forest is on fire!" Pepper was freaking out. Kaguya hits Pepper on the head. "Ouch!" She puts her hand to her head and looks at Kaguya with a face that could cry at any moment. "What? Why did you hit me?" "Calm down and use your powers," Kaguya spoke. Suddenly, Pepper's expression lit up. "Oh!" Pepper steps on the ground. The ground broke with the force she put in, and soon a massive amount of water started coming out of the cracks. She points her finger at the forest and yells, "A!" The water she was controlling rose to the skies and began to fall into the forest as if the place were raining. As a surprising display of control, Pepper just doused the spreading fire. "Good job," Kaguya said. "Hee hee." She laughed as she scratched her head. Kaguya uses her speed and runs towards Victor. Seeing that Kaguya is gone, Pepper follows her example and uses her speed. "Lord Victor, didn't I tell you not to use your powers?" Kaguya asked. "I didn't try to use my powers," Victor muttered as he got up from a crater that was more than 1 kilometer wide. He didn't seem to be hurt. Then, realizing he was wet with water, fire started to come out of his body, and soon he was dry again. He looks at his clothes and thinks, "These clothes are amazing. They are quite resistant." Kaguya looks at the ground around Victor and sees that the soil was filled with small pieces of ice. Maybe. She seemed to be thinking of something. "I tried to run like Pepper, but for some reason it happened."
Fue? Pepper looked surprised. She looked around and said, "You tried to run like me and created this giant crater?" she asked with an expression of shock. "Pepper, what was that noise?" Lacus suddenly arrives, and she looks around. "Wow, this is big." "Lord Victor, can you do something for me?" "Yes, what is it?" Victor replied in a neutral tone. "Follow me," Kaguya said, and started to run. Victor started following Kaguya, and soon Pepper and Lacus, who were curious about what was going to happen, began to follow as well. Kaguya stops in front of an ordinary tree. "See that tree? I want you to pull the tree out of the ground and throw the tree in a random direction." Don't. Victor didn't understand the purpose of this, but he did as Kaguya asked. Victor approaches the tree trunk gently. Somehow he can instinctively sense that using one hand was enough, so he pulls the tree out of the ground and lifts it with ease. He looks at an empty spot and throws the tree. Everyone watched the tree that was suddenly frozen in the air. When that tree fell to the ground and broke the ice around it, a fire started to be
And soon lightning fell from the sky. ? As expected, Kaguya seems to have figured something out. This is bullshit! Lacus suddenly yelled in frustration. She looked like she was freaking out. Fue? Pepper was startled by the sudden scream. Victor puts his hand to his ear. Why are you screaming, woman? Lacus looks at Victor. Don't you understand what you just did? ? Victor looked at Lacus confused. I threw the tree, and suddenly it turned to ice. When the ice fell to the ground started to catch fire, and suddenly lightning fell from the sky even though there were no clouds in the sky. He explained what he saw aloud. ... Lacus just looked at Victor with an expression that said she didn't believe what she was seeing in front of her. ... Lacus looked at Victor with an expression that didn't believe what she was hearing. And even saying that, you still don't understand what you did. Woman, stop walking around and say what you're thinking. Lacus puts her hand to her head like she has a headache. Lady Lacus is frustrated because you did something impossible. My favorite maid enlightened me with knowledge. I look at Kaguya. You used an attack to seamlessly unite the three powers. She looks at the minor damage my attack has done. This attack is basically the fusion of the powers of Clan Folger, Clan Scarlet, and Clan Snow. And? The three women look at Victor in silence. Pepper sighs cutely. He needs to learn about vampire society first. Kaguya nodded in agreement. Listen, Victor, let's do an example here, okay? Lacus starts to explain as if she were explaining to a child. She picks up a stick from the ground and starts drawing a picture on the ground. Let's use my sister Ruby as an example. She drew Ruby on the floor. Ruby is a vampire who inherited the powers of Scottish, the strongest female vampire in the world. In the beginning, my mother's powers weren't as strong as they are now. She could only create a block of ice. She drew Scottish using her powers. She had to train hard to raise her powers to the level it is now, and over the millennia, she managed to increase that power. And then, at some point in my mom's life, she decided she wanted to have a daughter. At first, she was just bored and she decided that on a whim. And, like every strong female vampire at the time, she did the obvious. She kidnapped a vampire from a clan that had powers that could match her powers. Victor was speechless. The man who was the chosen one was a vampire who could control water and breathe underwater. Mom used the vampire until she became pregnant and even went through the ritual and married the vampire. She did all of this to ensure that her child had greater potential than she did. A few years later, when Ruby was born, she killed her husband and raised Ruby on her own. And Ruby inherited the powers of both parents perfectly. She drew Ruby using her powers. Ruby could control water and ice,
And she could also breathe underwater. She could also combine the two powers like you did now. Because of this peculiarity of our race, vampires are feared. After all, with each passing generation, vampires have the potential to surpass their parents. But unfortunately, that potential is wasted. She sighed and continued. Since she was little, Ruby has always had great power because of what happened in the past. She has the potential to surpass Scottage, but she needs to train a lot. She looks at Victor and says, "What you've done now is literally impossible. You have the 3 powers of the clan of vampire counts, and you're neither a son or an heir of those clans. You basically ignored the whole history of the clan of vampires when existing. Because of that, she said that what you did is impossible." Lord Victor is an anomaly. His potential far surpasses most vampires out there. Victor opened his mouth in shock, and then he looked at his fists as he thought. So having these powers is considered abnormal. Victor was feeling weird. He didn't consider himself special or anything like that, but it wasn't a bad feeling. With this potential, if I train like crazy, maybe in less than a few years can I get to my mother-in-law's level? I really want to fight her. I get it. Thank you, Kaguya. I smiled gently and patted her head. Kaguya exhibited a small smile on her face. Selective breeding, huh? I put my hand on my chin. So my wives' families did that too. Huh? Pepper suddenly exclaimed in surprise. Why did you understand her confusing explanation and not mine? Lacus yelled. Victor ignored Lacus. Kaguya suddenly said, "Your wives' clan doesn't need to do this. Let's use Ruby as an example again. Countess Scottage was already a powerful woman when she decided to have a daughter, and when she had a daughter, the daughter was born with the potential to surpass her own mother. In the end, it all depends on the parents themselves and the children's effort. After all, the children have a better start than the parents had." I see. I don't understand something. If vampires have this quirk as a race, why aren't they stronger than other factions? Well, there are noble vampires with the same personality as Corneliu, Kaguya explained. Who? Victor thought, confused. 80% of vampires worldwide are like that man, lazy, proud, and never train. I just looked at Kaguya with a blank expression. But don't despair. 19% of vampires are workers, and only 1% are crazy about training, like Lady Scathach. Vampires are fucked. 80% of the vampire population is just useless, Victor thought. Just out of curiosity, my wife Violet's mother and my wife Sasha's mother, are they just like Scathach? Victor's eyes gleamed for a moment. They're not the same. Lady Violet's mother is narcissistic and obsessed with her husband. She tried to find better words, but in the end she just gave up. Lady Sasha's mother, she is obsessed with gambling and rarely trains, but the two women living over 1900 years are powerful, but they are not on the same level as Ruby's mother. Oh, Victor looked disappointed for a moment. Why this sudden curiosity with the two women? Lacus was about to ask something, but suddenly Pepper yelled in a cute voice. Are you ignoring what he just said? Huh? Lacus looked at her sister. Didn't you hear? He just said, my wives. Kya! I need to tell my friends. The 3 flowers of the vampire world have been taken by a stranger. Why are you just smart for these things? Lacus said. Lady Pepper likes to gossip, Kaguya sighed. She's just bored, Lacus sighed. Why don't we train? We've already talked too much, Victor suggested, and started walking toward a more spacious place. Lord Victor is right. Kaguya started to follow Victor. The two sisters look at each other and nod, then they follow Victor too. Some minutes later, as Victor walked through the forest, he suddenly felt his throat go dry. Ugh! He dropped to his knees on the ground. His eyes changed to blood red and his teeth started to change and get sharper. All the symptoms that were quite common, Kaguya said. Bloodlust. This is a good time, Pepper yelled, like she had a good idea. We should train bloodlust control. I disagree. Lord Victor's bloodlust is stronger than that of ordinary vampires, therefore the chance of him going mad is very high. Why is his bloodlust stronger? Pepper asked in curiosity. Something happened in the past that made him like this, Kaguya spoke ambiguously. Pepper looked at Kaguya with a cute look. So what are we supposed to do? Lacus asked. You don't need to do anything. I'm fine. Victor stood up and forced a gentle smile on his face, but it failed miserably because his sharp teeth were showing. Kaguya looked at Victor with a stoic expression. Lord Victor, are you sure everything is all right? Hasn't your bloodlust gotten stronger compared to before? Yes, it got stronger. Victor kept walking, then he explained. Even if I wanted to quench my thirst, my wives aren't around now and it's impossible for me to quench my thirst with common blood. That's true. Because of that nuisance, I don't want to get married. Just imagine being dependent on someone else's blood for eternity. No thanks, Lacus snorted. Victor ignored Lacus and continued walking. Kaguya looked at Lacus with a neutral expression, but she didn't say anything. I found a place with space to train, Victor said while looking at a distant place with his vision, and soon he used his speed and ran towards that place. Kaguya, who was close to Victor, just ran along with him. Pepper looked at her sister with a cute look but just shrugged and followed Victor. Huh? Wait, don't leave me behind.
Victor's house. So, Leon puts his hand on his head as if he has a bad headache. Are you telling me my son has 2 more wives and you are them? Yes. Yes. Sasha stuttered a little when she spoke. She was very embarrassed. Ruby managed to respond in a more neutral tone and keep her face cool. Though Leon had heard the confirmation from the 2 women, he still couldn't believe what he was hearing. And do you agree with that? I mean, aren't you guys jealous or something? He asked again. Ruby and Sasha look at each other. Then the 2 women look at Leon. I feel jealous, but since Ruby and Violet are my childhood friends, I don't really care that much. I feel like a lot hasn't changed and that Victor has just joined the group, Sasha spoke with a confused expression on her face. It was her honest feelings, and even though she didn't understand that feeling completely, being with Victor soothed her a lot. She felt very comfortable. It was the same feeling as when she was with Julia. Indeed, I feel the same. I'm sure if we weren't childhood friends, this situation would be much more problematic, Ruby spoke as she thought. If they were other women, I would never have let them get close to my darling. Leon just looked at the 2 women with a shocked expression. So jealous. Leon suddenly felt a shiver in his body. He looked at his wife, and seeing the glow in her eyes, he pretended to cough. I mean, I feel jealous of how you 3 get together well with my son. I hope you can take care of him. Oh, thank you, Ruby spoke. Thanks? Sasha thanked him, a little confused. Leon? Yes, honey? He spoke with a strained smile on his face. How was your work? Anna asked with a small smile on her face. Huh? Oh, the work was good. I had little problems, but it's the usual. Anyway, I'm glad my son has 2 more lovely wives like you to look after him. He smiled at Ruby and Sasha. Sasha and Ruby's faces lit up, and they smiled happily. Thanks, Father, Sasha said. Thanks, Ruby said. Leon couldn't help but be enchanted by the 2 women's smiles, but when he felt his wife's gaze intensify as if she were stabbing him in every inch of his body, he made the wisest decision he could make in this kind of situation. I have something to solve, work calls. He got up from the couch and calmly walked up the stairs. I'll see you guys another day. He ran away. Nice job, Father. Don't work too hard or you might get sick, Sasha was kind. Leon stopped walking and replied looking at Sasha.
I'm not going to, and thanks for your concern, Sasha. Leon went upstairs, and the moment he didn't feel his wife's gaze anymore, he crouched down on the stairs and put his ear to the wall. Then he thought, when did my son become a Chad? I know he inherited my bricklayer genes, but even I can't do something like that. A woman is already a big problem. Imagine having 2 more. Hell no. After the initial problems and Anna's shock to learn that her son has 2 more wives, she accepted this situation more easily when she found that the 2 personalities of the women were quite agreeable. Ruby was very quiet and had a cold expression on her face all the time, but she could see that there was a very kind woman behind that cold face. Sasha was more talkative than Ruby, but she was more easily embarrassed by heartfelt compliments, and when Anna called Sasha her daughter, Anna thinks she's found a new hobby of teasing Sasha, but she will try very hard not to go overboard. That was Anna's initial impression of Sasha and Ruby. What about Leon's opinion on this subject? It doesn't matter, and Anna planned to talk to him later. Leon felt his body shiver again. Anna was a little upset with Leon, but she wasn't angry with him or anything. She was just a little frustrated with her son's sudden change, and she knew exactly how to resolve that frustration. She was thinking it would be an excellent time to give Victor a brother or sister. Leon was a very simple man. He lives life simply, and if he likes something, he accepts it. If he doesn't like something, he shows his middle finger and says, "Fuck you." Leon is not very good with words like his wife. He prefers to work things out with his fist, but he's sensitive enough to see when his son is in trouble and help him whenever possible. He'd rather act than talk. An honest man. And from past experience, Leon could see from the moment he looked at Ruby and Sasha that the 2 were very nice women and had good personalities. They weren't women who would cause trouble for his son. Besides that, he didn't care too much. His thinking was simple. My son is an adult, and I trust him, but if I see he's going down a wrong path, I will advise him. And that same thought was shared by Anna, Victor's mother. Today, basement of Victor's house. So it somehow worked out. Sasha sat on the couch. She was mentally drained. I never want to do this again. I never thought it would be so tiring. She seemed to be melting on the couch. Ruby sat on the couch and crossed her legs elegantly. Yes, everything went according to plan. She stuttered a little. Sasha looked at Ruby out of her corner of her eye. She didn't even feel like pointing it out to Ruby right now. Natalia suddenly appears and brings a cup of tea that contains a red liquid inside. Thanks, but I don't want... Ruby was going to refuse the tea. She didn't want to drink someone else's blood, but she stopped talking when she smelled the blood. This is my darling's blood. She swallowed hard. Sasha opens her eyes and looks into her cup, her face suddenly twisting with disgust. When did you get this? Ruby asked curiously. When Lord Victor was sleeping, I collected some of his blood. Natalia smiled gently. Ruby looked at Natalia with a cold face. That's impossible. No one enters my darling's room without me or Sasha and Violet noticing. Oh, she used her powers. Is it okay to use your powers for something so insignificant? She asked a little unsure. I have power. Why shouldn't I use it any way I want? Natalia replied. Well, Ruby agreed with Natalia's reasoning. Are you going to take this? I wouldn't recommend it, Sasha suddenly spoke. Why? Ruby asked, confused. Sasha explains. Although it's my husband's blood, for some reason the blood tastes really bad. It felt like I was eating spoiled food. It's better to drink straight from the source. Oh, you have? Ruby asked and complained a little. Don't treat our husband like he's a blood factory. I'm kidding. You need to relax more, Ruby, Sasha said. Ruby snorted, and for a few seconds the 2 mounds waved in a way that could mesmerize any straight man. Sasha rolled her eyes again.
Answering your question, yes, I took the blood, and to this day I regret drinking that blood. She never felt more like vomiting in her life. Natalia looks at Ruby with a gentle smile on her face. Will Lady Ruby want tea? Silence. Ruby looks at Natalia with a blank expression. No, I don't want to, she refused. Although the smell was appealing, she decided to trust Sasha. Oh, that's too bad, Natalia commented as she removed her tea and walked towards the kitchen. For a moment she looked at Maria and thought, this maid, she's just not doing anything, right? And she doesn't even say anything either. Should I put her to work? Let's go home, Ruby asked Sasha. Yes, let's go back, Sasha agreed and got up from the couch, but soon Sasha, Maria, Ruby, and Natalia looked to the middle of the room. A magic circle suddenly appears in the middle of the room. Hey, hey, hey! I came back with shocking information. The witch June appeared with a smile on her face. Current location, north in the territory of Countess Scotch Scarlet, in front of the Scotch mansion. Finally, I arrived, Violet screamed in frustration as she looked at the mansion entrance that was a grand, old-looking gate. Because of Natalia, I had to run from the south to the north. Damn, why didn't Natalia open the portal to Ruby's house? She was angry again. Then she sighs. As usual, this place is quite desolate. She looks around and sees only forests and snow-covered mountains. I never understood why that old hag chose her personal home in such a secluded place. Tisk, tisk, Violet heard a woman's voice. You never learn, brat. Violet looks up and sees Skathak standing horizontally against her gate wall. Where is Victor? Violet asked impatiently. Skathak drops to the ground and responds, he's training with Pepper. What? Violet screamed in horror. She remembered Pepper's appearance. That bitch is going to seduce my darling. I will kill her. Violet's eyes started to change to red and her teeth began to get sharp. Seeing Violet's face, Skathak approaches Violet and hits her on the head. Ouch! Violet puts her hand on her head and glares at Skathak angrily. What was that? Stop your paranoia, brat. Don't you trust your husband? Of course I trust him. I don't trust your daughter, Violet yelled. She points a finger at Skathak and